Welcome to a Legendarium special about Fulk III FitzWarin, perhaps the real Robin Hood. In the comments section, please let me know if you think that Fulk III FitzWarin was a likely inspiration for the legend of Robin Hood. During the years following the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the early Norman kings fortified their border with Wales. They appointed marcher lords, tough men who guarded what became known as the Welsh marches or the Welsh border. Such men, though officially loyal to the king, ruled as little kings in their own right. One famous story tells of a marcher lord who received a summons from the king that he did not care for, so he ordered the messenger to eat the summons along with its wax seal. One such marcher lord, Fulk I FitzWarin, founded his family seat at Whittington Castle and supported the Empress Matilda in her war against her cousin King Stephen de Blois. For this, Fulk received rich rewards when Matilda's son took the throne as King Henry II. Thus, the FitzWarin family became one of the richest families on the Welsh marches. Fulk's grandson, Fulk III, grew up at the court of King Henry II, likely as a noble page. There he became friends with the king's youngest son, John Lackland, who would later become King John I, unfortunately. The legend says that their friendship soured when Fulk III defeated young John at a game of chess. John broke the board over Fulk's head, and Fulk then beat John soundly. When John ran crying to his father, the king, Henry II scolded John for acting like a weakling. John Lackland never forgave Fulk for this. As a young man, Fulk III FitzWarin married Maud de Vavasour, the daughter of Robert de Vavasour, a deputy sheriff of Lancashire. Since she was a rich heiress, Fulk had to pay 1,200 marks to marry. This act also required witnesses, or the so-called sortie. These included some prominent nobles, like Henry de Bohun and William de Braose. The second man would be executed when caught sleeping with the wife of the crown prince, surely a terrible career move. When Fulk III became the Lord FitzWarin upon his father's death, he unfortunately inherited the land disputes begun by his father, imaginatively named Fulk II. Earlier, Henry II granted the family seat at Whittington to the Peveril family, which the FitzWarin family would not accept. As soon as his father died in the year 1200, Fulk III offered a feudal relief, or a one-time payment of 100 marks to regain Whittington. Unfortunately, by then, John Lackland had become King John I. Bad King John offered Whittington Castle to an enemy of the FitzWarin family, a Welshman named Roger de Powys, for only half that sum, simply out of spite to his former friend. 1 year later, Fulk III FitzWarin rebelled against the king and took to the woods. There he gathered a retinue of 50 men, and the support of several lords unhappy with Bad King John's rule. These included family tenants and the ambitious sons of minor lords like Eustace de Cavilly, Gilbert de Dure, Sir William Marsh, and Fulk's own brothers, William, John, and Philip. The details of the FitzWarin rebellion are lost to history, but it does seem to have worried John I. The king even ordered his justiciar, the powerful Lord Hubert de Burgh, 1st Earl of Kent, to take a force of 100 knights and hunt Fulk down. An ancestral romance of Fulk III offers an account of his adventures during these years. Many of these are similar to the later ballads of Robin Hood, leading some to wonder if Fulk actually inspired the legendary outlaw. One such story speaks of how Fulk and his merry men disguised themselves as charcoal burners and chanced upon King John and his hunting party in the forest. Fulk told the king that he saw a magnificent great horned elk and would happily lead the royal hunting party to it. Instead, Fulk led John I into an ambush, and his merry men captured the king and his knights. After revealing himself, Fulk III asked John I, "Sire, now I have you in my power. Shall I pass such a sentence upon you as you would upon me if you had taken me?" In this way he forced King John to vow before all men present that he would pardon him and grant him the opportunity to regain his family seat. It is unknown if this account has any truth to it, yet we do know that Fulk III FitzWarin's rebellion ended in November 1203 with John pardoning Fulk and his followers. The following year, John I not only allowed Fulk FitzWarin to return to his ancestral home in Whittington Castle, but even paid him £200. Whittington remained the FitzWarin family seat for another 2 centuries. So why did John pardon and pay off the man who caused him so much trouble? Most likely King John I realized that he could not defeat Fulk, and that peace on the Welsh marches mattered more than his vendetta, one of the few good decisions that bad King John made during his reign. Indeed, Fulk III FitzWarin served the king well after returning to his ancestral seat. He settled several border disputes between the Normans and the Welsh princes. In 1215, Fulk III got into another argument with Hervey de Stafford, High Sheriff of Shropshire, likely over the Magna Carta. The sheriff seized his lands at Alveston Manor, and this could have set off another round of fighting between FitzWarin and King John, but that ended when John died of dysentery in 1217. Fulk III then carried favor with Sir William Marshal, regent for the 9-year-old King Henry III, and even received permission to further fortify Whittington in the year 1220. Fulk III died around the year 1258, and he may have lived to be 98 years old, at least according to some claims. His family buried him in Alberbury Priory, which he personally founded a few decades before. During the 1850s, workmen found FitzWarin's remains while they carried out renovations. Beyond his dramatic struggle with a king for control of his ancestral seat, Fulk's life showed the importance of the Welsh marches to Norman England and gave an example of how bold men could defy tyranny. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.